the shovel bit into the earth like a betrayal. Each scoop of Montana clay hurling dirt into the night as if I could bury the ache in my chest along with it. Daniel's truck lights had long faded down the gravel road, his goodbye echoing louder than the coyotes howling at the stars. I can't do this anymore, Lucas. Not with her watching. And there she was, Karen, her silhouette on horseback cresting the hill at dawn, her laugh cutting sharper than barbed wire, as if she'd orchestrated the whole damn unraveling. I woke to the thunder of hooves shaking the timbers of my old ranch house, the kind of sound that rattles your bones before your eyes even flutter open. Dust sifted through the cracks in the ceiling like fine ash from a fire I couldn't put out, and I knew without looking it was her, Karen Whitaker, the self-appointed queen of Willow Creek Valley, galloping her prized Appaloosa right through the heart of my spread like it was her personal highway to hell. Morning, Lucas! Her voice sliced through the window, all honeyed venom wrapped in that fake southern drawl she'd picked up from too many reruns of Dallas. I rolled out of bed, boots hitting the floorboards with a thud that matched the pounding in my head from last night's whiskey, and yanked back the curtain just in time to see her reins snap, her horse rearing up against the split-rail fence I'd mended twice this month alone. She was 62 going on 16. With peroxide blonde hair teased into a helmet of judgment and eyes like chipped flint, always scanning for the next sin to stone. Karen had moved into the neighboring plot 5 years back, after her husband keeled over from a heart attack mid-branding. Folks said it was the stress of her endless church suppers and PDA crusades, but I figured it was just bad luck catching up. Since then, she'd turned her sorrow into a scepter, lording over the valley like God herself had deeded her the dirt. And me? I was the thorn in her side, the gay rancher who'd inherited this 200-acre patch from my folks, turning it into a haven for organic cattle and quiet desperation. My name's Lucas Hale, and if you'd told me a decade ago, fresh out of the closet in Billings with a backpack and a broken heart, that I'd end up here, elbow-deep in manure and moonlit regrets, I'd have laughed you off the porch. But that morning, as her horse's hooves churned my front pasture into mud, something snapped. Not the fence this time, though God knows it groaned. No, it was deeper, a fracture in the armor I'd worn since Daniel first kissed me under the cottonwoods 2 summers ago. We'd met at the county fair, him a veterinarian from Missoula with hands that smelled of sage and sutures, me nursing a beer and a grudge against the world. He had that easy grin, the kind that crinkles the corners of blue eyes and makes you believe in second chances, and when he leaned in amid the Ferris wheel lights, whispering, "You dance like you own the stars," I fell harder than a calf in a snowdrift. For 2 years, we'd stolen moments, lazy Sundays mending wire, nights tangled in hayloft shadows, building a life from whispers and what-ifs. He talked of rings and ranches merged, of adopting some kid from the res who needed a home. I dreamed of it too, in the quiet hours when the wind off the Rockies carried promises instead of warnings. Karen hated us from the jump, called it that unnatural business at the first town hall, her Bible thumping louder than her fist on the podium. She'd ride these lines not just to graze her stock on my grass, illegally, mind you, but to remind me she was watching. Always watching. Yesterday, she'd cornered Daniel at the feed store, her voice a stage whisper. "You know what the good book says about men like him, Doc? Sodom and Gomorrah ain't just history lessons." He'd come home pale, hands shaking as he bandaged a cut on my knuckles from punching a post in frustration. That night, over venison stew, he'd said it, "She's poison, Lucas." And the town's listening. We'd argued until the stars bled into dawn, his truck peeling out with tires spitting gravel like accusations. Now, as I stormed onto the porch in nothing but jeans and fury, shotgun propped casual-like against the rail, unloaded, but she didn't know that. Karen reined in, her face flushing redder than the clay under her stirrups. Just cutting through, darlin'. Shortest path to the creek. Her eyes flicked to the empty driveway, then back to me, triumphant. Heard your boys hightailed it. Smart man. Seein' sense at last. The words landed like a brand, searing. I gripped the rail until splinters bit my palm, tasting blood and bile. This ain't your road, Karen. Never was. Get off my land, or I'll make it so you can't. She laughed, that cackle like breaking glass, and spurred her horse forward, trampling my wildflowers as she went. I watched her vanish over the rise, the valley unfolding below like a map of my failures, rolling hills dotted with black Angus, the river glinting silver in the sun, and beyond, the jagged teeth of the bitterroots guarding secrets I'd kill to keep. By noon, the sheriff's cruiser was crunching up my drive, old Tom Riley at the wheel, his mustache twitching like it held all the valley's gossip. Tom's a decent sort, divorced twice and Catholic enough to nod at my lifestyle without preaching, but beholden to votes, and Karen had plenty. Complaint from the widow, he drawled, tipping his hat. Says you threatened her with a firearm. Again, I snorted, offering coffee black as my mood. Unloaded, Tom. And she was trespassing. 4th time this month, he sighed, flipping through his notepad. Lucas, you know how this plays. She's got the council in her pocket, pushin' that new zoning bill to carve up the valley for condos. Your organic gig? That's small potatoes to her empire. I leaned against the counter, the scent of brewing grounds mingling with the faint tang of Daniel's cologne still clinging to my shirt. Empire. That's what she called it, her Christian ranching collective. A front for buying up land cheap and flipping it to developers from California. My place was the last holdout, a stubborn patch of heritage beef and hidden heartaches. What about Daniel? I asked, voice low. Tom's eyes softened. Heard he took a job up in Kalispell. Vet clinic there. Clean break. Son, clean. Like a knife through gristle. That afternoon, I rode the fences alone, the bay mare's rhythm a poor substitute for the man who'd once shared the saddle with me. The wind whipped my hat brim, carrying echoes of our last real talk, under the big pine where we'd carved our initials like fools. I love you, he'd said, fingers tracing the bark. But love don't pay bills when the town's turning. Karen's shadow loomed larger than her acreage. She'd spread rumors. Me poisoning wells, Daniel botching a foal's birth on purpose. Lies, all of it, but in a place where church steeples outnumbered Starbucks. Truth bent easy. Dusk found me in the barn, forking hay with mechanical fury, when my phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Missed the stars yet? Meet at the old mill. 9 p.m. Heart slamming like a gate in a gale. I saddled up quick, the night swallowing me whole as I cut through the back 40. The mill was our spot, ruins by the creek where willows wept and the water sang lullabies. He was there, silhouetted against the moonlit rapids, hands shoved deep in his jacket pockets. Daniel, I breathed, dismounting like my legs forgot how. He turned, that grin flickering uncertain, and pulled me into an embrace that smelled of pine and possibility. Couldn't leave it like that, he murmured into my hair. You're my home. Luke. Always. We talked for hours, words tumbling like the creek, about starting fresh, selling off a parcel to fund a fence of our own, literal and figurative. His kiss was salt and salvation, sealing promises under the indifferent stars. But as I rode back, euphoria fading into the chill, I spotted lights flickering on the ridge. Karen's house, ablaze with lanterns, and shadows moving like conspirators. Paranoia, maybe, but in Willow Creek, shadows had teeth. I didn't sleep that night, replaying Daniel's words, the warmth of his hand in mine. Come morning, the hoofs thundered again, Karen, bolder now, her horse kicking up clods as she veered close to the house. This time, I didn't yell. I just watched, shovel in hand, and started digging. It began small, a trench along the property line, shoulder deep and wide as a grave. By midnight, sweat-soaked and silent, I traced half a mile, the earth yielding secrets of its own, arrowheads from the Salish who roamed here first, shards of my father's old whiskey bottles. Daniel texted again, dreaming of you. I smiled into the dark, the blade slicing sod like cutting ties. This moat wasn't just dirt. It was defiance, a line drawn in clay against the world that wanted us broken. Word spread fast in the valley, faster than bluebonnets in spring. By week 2, the trench snaked the perimeter, fed by a diverted creek arm, turning my ranch into an island. Folks drove by gawking old misses. Hargrove from the diner left a pie with a note. About time someone stood up to her. The council meeting was a circus, Karen thundering about vandalism and anti-Christian aggression, her face a mask of righteous fury. Tom pulled me aside after. She's filing an injunction. Lucas claims it's blocking her easement. Easement my ass. There was none, just her entitlement. Daniel showed up that night, truck bed loaded with sandbags and a six-pack. Heard about your fortress, he said, eyes dancing as we sat on the porch, the moat's water lapping soft below. Romantic, in a medieval way, we laughed, the sound foreign after weeks of silence, and made love slow under the quilt Nana stitched, his whispers chasing shadows away. We'll fight this, he vowed, tracing the scars on my knuckles. Together, but together was fragile as spring ice. Karen didn't quit, she escalated. One dawn, I found my gate chainsaw cut, cattle spooked into the hills. Then came the letters, anonymous at first, typed venom. Sinners reap what they sow. Leave or burn. Daniel found the first one in my mailbox, crumpling it with hands that trembled. It's her, he said. Has to be. We reported it. But Tom shrugged. No proof. Boys. And with the election coming, proof. In Willow Creek, proof was for city folk. The betrayal hit like a summer squall, sudden and soaking. It was mid-July, the air thick with heat and hay scent, when Daniel's phone rang during supper, his clinic line, he said, stepping out to the porch. I watched through the screen door as his face drained of color, shoulders slumping like a felled pine. When he came back, eyes averted, I knew. What is it? Pressed, fork clattering to the plate. He sank into his chair, voice hollow. Karen. She called the board. Said I was unfit. Cited moral concerns from the community. They've suspended me pending review. Suspended. The word hung heavy, a noose tightening. She recorded us, Luke, at the mill. Some drone footage, blurry but enough. Whispered it to the right ears. The room spun, venison turning to ash in my mouth. Recorded. Our sanctuary, violated. How long? I whispered, but the question was rhetorical. Betrayal's timeline is always yesterday. He reached for my hand, but I pulled back, the moat between us wider than the one I'd dug. I didn't know, he pleaded. I swear, I thought we were safe. Safe. The lie we'd both told ourselves. That night, he left again, not in anger, but defeat, his truck's taillights blurring through tears I wouldn't shed. Alone, I grabbed the shovel, the moat calling like a lover scorned. Deeper, wider, I'd drown the whole valley if it meant forgetting. Weeks blurred into a haze of labor and loss. The injunction hearing loomed, Karen's lawyers circling like vultures, but I poured everything into the land, reinforcing banks, planting willows along the water's edge, turning defense into something beautiful. The cattle thrived, grass greener on my side, and strangely, neighbors trickled in offering help, sharing stories of her high-handed ways. She's afraid, Old Man Jenkins muttered one afternoon, tossing dirt into the wheelbarrow. Afraid of what you two got. Real love. The kind that don't bend. Real love. If only. Daniel's texts dwindled to silence, his suspension dragging into autumn leaves turning gold. I drove to Kalispell once, pounding on his apartment door until a neighbor shushed me. He looked wrecked, beard unkempt, eyes hollowed by what-ifs. I can't come back, he said through the crack. Not until it's safe. For us. The word fractured me, and I drove home through rain-slicked passes, the moat swollen with storm water, a mirror to my rage. Karen's next move was surgical. At the hearing, in the county courthouse with its peeling paint and echoing halls, she took the stand in pearls and piety, spinning tales of my aggression, the shotgun, the threats, the unnatural moat blocking God's good earth. Her ace, Daniel's deposition, notarized and neat. I have no knowledge of Mr. Hale's intentions. Our association was professional. Professional. The pen stabbed deeper than any blade. I stared at the paper, world narrowing to ink and betrayal. He'd sold me out, not for money, but survival, his name on the line in a town that devoured the different. The judge ruled in her favor. Fill the moat or face fines that'd bankrupt me. As she passed, her hand brushed my shoulder, a whisper hot as hellfire. Told you, sinner. The Lord provides for the faithful. Faith. Mine was in the dirt, the dawn, the man who'd promised forever and fled. That night, back at the ranch, I didn't fill it. I deepened it, the shovel my confessor, each thrust unearthing memories. Daniel's laugh echoing off canyon walls, his fingers interlaced with mine at the drive-in, the way he'd hum Johnny Cash while stitching a wound. Betrayal burned, but beneath it, love smoldered, human, flawed, enduring. Winter crept in early, snow dusting the moat's edges like lace on a widow's veil. The valley hunkered down, holiday lights twinkling defiant against the cold. I kept to myself, tending stock by lantern light, the isolation a balm and a blade. Then, Christmas Eve, hooves soft this time, not thundering. Daniel, on foot, trudging through the drifts, a bottle of bourbon in one gloved hand, the other clutching a manila envelope. "Luke," he called, voice cracking on the wind. I met him at the water's edge, the frozen surface a fragile bridge. His eyes were red-rimmed, not from cold. I quit the clinic, fought the board, got the footage thrown out. Turns out her drone was illegal, no permit. But that's not why I'm here. He thrust the envelope forward. Read it. Inside, a deed, transferring his small plot adjoining mine free and clear. Sold everything else, he said, breath fogging. No more running. If you'll have me, this is home. Us against the world, moat and all. Words failed, so I pulled him across the ice, our embrace cracking the surface but holding. Karen's lights flickered distant on the ridge, her empire crumbling under its own weight, rumors of her debts, her isolation. She rode no more. The valley whispered of mercy, of second chances. We filled the moat come spring, not with dirt, but wildflowers, seeds scattered by hands intertwined. The water fed an irrigation ditch instead, nourishing both lands. Karen passed one dawn, on foot this time, pausing at the new gate. "Looks good," she muttered, eyes on the horizon. No apology, but a nod small, human. Forgiveness isn't erasure, it's planting over the scars. Daniel and I, we built slow, a life from laughter and labor, adopting that res kid with eyes like the river. Love, turns out, isn't a fortress. It's the courage to dig deep, to bridge the floods, and emerge whole on the other side. In Willow Creek, under endless skies, we found our way, two men, one ranch, rewriting the map of what home means. The spring thaw came like a reluctant lover, melting the moat's icy crust into rivulets that snaked through the pasture, carving new paths where old grudges had hardened. Daniel and I worked side by side, our breaths mingling in the crisp air as we coaxed the earth back to life, tilling the banks into gentle slopes, sowing packets of lupin and Indian paintbrush that Nana swore chased away bad spirits. His hands, calloused from scalpels and now soil, brushed mine often, deliberate touches that spoke louder than the vows we'd yet to utter. "This is ours," he'd say, wiping sweat from his brow with a forearm tattooed with a simple compass rose, the one I'd inked on him after our first fight, a reminder that directions change but true north holds. But peace in the valley was a fickle guest, prone to overstaying its welcome only to vanish at the first shadow. Karen's silence stretched into weeks. Her rides ceased. Her lights dimmed early each night. Folks at the feed store nodded approvingly when I passed, murmuring about her comin' around, but I knew better. Wounds like hers festered, turning inward until they poisoned the well. One afternoon, as Daniel and I unloaded fence posts from his truck, his name now on the title, our signatures entwined like vines, a pickup rattled up, dust clouding the drive. It was her nephew, young Tommy Whitaker, barely 20, with the same flint eyes but none of the zealotry. He hopped out, hat in hand, shifting like a colt in a stall. "Uncle Lucas," he started. "No, wait, he'd never called me that," but the hesitation hung there, an olive branch extended awkward. "Aunt Karen. She's bad off. Doc says it's her heart, like Uncle Ray's. Won't take visitors, but she asked for you." Daniel's hand tightened on my shoulder, a silent question. I searched Tommy's face for traps, but saw only worry, the raw kind that strips pretense. "Why me?" I asked. voice steady as the posts we stacked. He shrugged, scuffing a boot in the gravel. Said something about unfinished business. The moat, maybe. Or you and Dan, unfinished business. The words echoed Daniel's deposition, that sterile betrayal still stinging like nettle under skin. I glanced at Daniel, his blue eyes steady, offering choice without demand. Go, he said soft. Humanity's a two-way fence. Luke. Mend what you can. So I did, saddling the bay and riding the old trail, the one Karen once claimed as hers, now blooming with the flowers we'd planted over her trespasses. Her house loomed like a faded postcard, Victorian gingerbread sagging under years of neglect, the porch swing creaking empty in the breeze. Tommy led me through the dim parlor, thick with the scent of mothballs and menthol, to her bedroom where lace curtains filtered the sun into frail beams. Karen lay propped on pillows, thinner than her spite, oxygen hissing from a nasal tube like a serpent's warning. Her eyes, still sharp, fixed on me as I hovered in the doorway. Sit, she rasped, patting the quilt with a veined hand. No pleasantries, no scripture, just command, softened by frailty. I perched on the edge, the mattress dipping under my weight, and waited. She studied me, the silence stretching taut as a bowstring. You won, she said finally, a ghost of a smile cracking her lips. The moat. The valley. Him. Daniel's name unspoken, but heavy. I leaned forward, elbows on knees. Wasn't a contest, Karen. Just survival, she coughed, a wet rattle that shook her frame, and waved off Tommy's hovering. When he left, closing the door soft, she reached for the nightstand drawer, pulling out a faded photo, her and Ray, young and laughing on horseback, the ranch behind them unscarred. Ray knew, she whispered. About you. The way you look at that boy. Said it weren't his place to judge. Her fingers trembled on the frame. But after he went, the quiet, the screamed. Church filled it some, but the anger, that stuck. To you, 'cause you had what I lost. Love that don't die easy. Confession hung in the air, raw and unadorned, peeling back layers of venom to reveal the grief beneath. I thought of my own losses. Dad's stroke leaving him silent in his chair. Mom's cancer stealing her laugh before the ranch claimed her ashes. Grief's a thief, I said. Steals everything but the hurt. She nodded, tears carving tracks down powdered cheeks. Fill the moat proper. Plant roses there. Ray loved roses. A plea, not a demand. Promised, though the word tasted bittersweet, and left with her hand in mine, cooler than the creek but warmer than hate. Riding home, the sun dipped low, gilding the hills, and I felt lighter, as if the valley had exhaled. Daniel waited on the porch, a lantern glowing against the twilight. Well? He asked, pulling me into his lap on the swing. I recounted it all, his thumb tracing circles on my neck as the stars pricked the sky. She's human after all, he murmured. Like us. We made plans then, roses along the old line, a shared garden bridging our plots. But humanity's messy. It doesn't tie bows on every thread. Trouble brewed not from Karen, but the council's shadows. The zoning bill she'd championed slithered back, disguised now as progress, condos for urban escapees, golf courses swallowing grazing land. At the next meeting, in the VFW hall smelling of stale coffee and varnish. I spoke against it, voice steady. This values more than dollars. This roots, families, the kind that last. Applause rippled, but the vote leaned her way, old alliances dying hard. Daniel squeezed my hand under the table, his presence armor enough. That night, betrayal's echo returned, sharper. A knock at midnight, Tom's cruiser idling. "Lucas," he said, at low. "Anonymous tip, someone poisoned your well. Tests show arsenic. Low dose but enough to sicken stock. My blood iced. The cattle, my herd, organic certified, the heart of the ranch. Who? But I knew. Not Karen, bedridden, but her web lingered. Tommy? No. His eyes were clear. Deeper, perhaps a hired hand, or worse, someone closer. Daniel paced as Tom left, fury etching lines on his face. This ends it. We sell. Move to Missoula. Start over. Sell. The word gutted me, visions of condos sprouting like weeds on my father's grave. No, I shot back. This is home. We fight. The argument escalated. Words like arrows, his fear of losing me to the land, my terror of losing him to it. He stormed out, truck roaring into the dark, leaving me with the poison specter. Dawn brought reckoning. I tested the water myself, kit from the co-op confirming the taint. Then, a call from the hospital. Karen, worsening, asking for Daniel. He went, reluctant, returning hours later with a sealed envelope. Her will, he said, voice thick. Leaves you the East 40 water rights and all. And a letter. The paper shook in my hand. Forgive an old fool. The poison was mine. Once metaphor, but real enough. Don't let it take you too. K. Tears blurred the ink. Not literal arsenic, but her doing, hiring a drifter years back to discourage a rival. The same fool circling now for coin. Confession. Absolution. We buried her a week later. Valley folk in black under gray skies. Roses from our garden on her casket. Tommy nodded thanks. The deed signed over clean. The climax crested that summer. Heat wave cracking the earth. When the drifter showed, scruffy, eyes darting, demanding hush money at the gate. Daniel and I faced him together, Tom's backup en route. It ends here, I said, moat filled but spirit unbowed. He bolted, caught by Jenkins' lasso in the pasture, a farce amid the fury. Arrested, confessed, Karen's old grudge, revived for greed. Counsel relented after, zoning bill buried under scandal. Daniel and I, we married quiet, under the cottonwoods, rings of ranch gold. The kid, Eli, arrived fall, his laughter filling the house. Love's not dramatic always, just steady, like the river carving stone. Human, to the core. Eli came into our lives like a sudden rain on parched ground, all wide-eyed wonder and sticky fingers clutching at shirt tails. His adoption papers still warm from the lawyer's office when he toddled across the threshold that crisp October afternoon. He was 5, Salish through and through with braids like black silk and a grin that could melt barbed wire. Rescued from a foster shuffle that had bounced him from Billings to Bozeman like a pinball in a machine. Daniel knelt first, offering a toy horse carved from cottonwood. My handiwork, rough but earnest, and Eli's laugh bubbled up, pure as the creek after thaw. Horse go Moat, he lisped. pointing to the flower-lined depression that had become our legend, a sunken garden now abloom with Karen's roses. I watched from the doorway, heart swelling in a way I'd forgotten possible, the ranch stretching behind us like a canvas repainted with hope. "No Moat, buddy," Daniel said, scooping him up. "Just home, home." The word settled deep, rooting where betrayal had tried to uproot. We'd named the East 40 after her, Karen's Crossing, a nod not to spite but the bridge she'd unwittingly built. Water rights secured our herd, organic yields soaring, and the valley? It breathed easier. Neighbors dropping by with pies and playdates, Eli's chatter weaving us tighter. But romance, that old rogue, doesn't fade with routine. It simmers, flaring in stolen moments. One evening, as Eli napped under the quilt, Daniel pulled me to the hayloft, the ladder creaking under our weight like a shared secret. "Remember our first time here?" he murmured, lips brushing my ear, hands mapping familiar paths. I did, the urgency, the fear of dawn breaking too soon. Now, it was slower, deeper, a reaffirmation etched in whispers and sighs, the stars winking approval through the slats. "Every day with you is better than the last," I breathed, our foreheads touching, breaths sinking like ranch rhythms. Yet conflict lurked, insidious as rust on rails. The condos hadn't died. They'd morphed. A slick developer from Denver named Hargrove, no relation to Sweet Mrs. At the diner pitching eco-luxury at the next council meet. Solar panels and spas, he promised, but the fine print swallowed small ranches whole. Tom cornered me after, mustache drooping. "They're comin' for parcels. Lucas. Yours included. If you don't watch, mine." The word ignited old fires. I'd fought too hard to lose to suits and loafers. Daniel felt it too, tension coiling in his shoulders as he stitched wounds on strays. "We could expand," he suggested over coffee one dawn, Eli coloring at the table with crayons we'd bought in town. "Vet services on site. Agritourism. Folks pay big for authentic. On display, the thought chafed, but his eyes held that spark, the one that first hooked me. We brainstormed late, sketches on napkins, guest cabins by the creek, workshops on sustainable grazing. Eli chimed in, "Horses for everybody," and we laughed, the plan taking shape like clay under thumbs. Karen's ghost lingered benevolent now, her roses thriving, drawing bees and butterflies that Eli chased with nets fashioned from old feed sacks. Tommy visited Sundays, awkward at first, then easy, teaching Eli roping tricks, sharing stories of Ray's wild youth. "Auntie was tough," he'd say, tossing a ball. "But fair. Deep down, fair." The letter in her will had paved that road, her admission of past poisons a balm on wounds I'd thought scarred over. The betrayal's scar, though, itched when Hargrove's scouts trespassed, clipboards in hand, measuring my fences like thieves eyeing a safe. I caught one mid-stride, overalls muddy from the crossing. "Private property," I growled, shovel in hand, habit, not threat. He smirked, "All city polish. Eminent domain's a bitch. Cowboy. Valleys growing. Cowboy." The slur stung, laced with assumptions about my life with Daniel. I reported it, Tom finding them petty, but the seed was planted, fear of losing the ground we'd claimed. Daniel and I clashed over it that night, Eli Abed with dreams of ponies. "Fight or fold?" he pressed. pacing the kitchen, his vet coat slung over a chair. We can't win every battle. Luke, fold. The idea curdled my gut. Folding was what I'd done after Dad, letting grief bury ambition until the ranch nearly slipped away. This is Eli's future, I countered. Our legacy. We stand. His face softened, crossing to cup my jaw. Then we stand. But together, no lone wolves. We rallied the valley, potlucks turning to strategy sessions at the diner, Mrs. Hargrove's pie fueling pitches. Jenkins brought maps. Tommy his aunt's old ledgers, proof of water feuds won fair. Even Tom spoke up, mustache firm. Enough outsiders carving us up. Hargrove pushed back. Ads in the Gazette decrying backward holdouts. Whispers of my alternative family, slithering in op-eds. Eli overheard one, tugging my sleeve. What's alternative? Daddy Luke, heart cracking. I knelt, explaining simple. Means we're us, kiddo. And that's perfect. The hearing was a powder keg. VFW packed shoulder to shoulder. Air thick with coffee and cologne. Hargrove testified smooth, charts projecting profits. But when I took the stand, voice steady as granite, I spoke from the gut. This land's fed generations, Salish before us, cowboys after. It's not for sale to spas. It's for roots, real ones. Daniel followed, Eli on his hip, detailing the eco-plan. Sustainable, yes, but ours. Cheers erupted, the vote swinging our way. Hargrove slinking out red-faced. Climax simmered post-victory, a quiet storm. Daniel proposed proper that night, under the cottonwoods, ring glinting his granddad's, resized. Marry me, Lucas Hale. Make it legal, eternal. Tears pricked. Yes was on my tongue when Eli squealed from the porch, tumbling into our arms. But as we embraced, a truck rumbled up. Tommy, pale, envelope in hand. Karen's codicil, he said. Hidden clause, contingent on you two. Splitting. Or it reverts to the church. Betrayal. Post-mortem. Her final twist. Love's litmus test. We burned it at dawn. Ashes to the wind. Choosing us over legacy. Human choice. Raw and right. The ranch endured. Roses blooming defiant. Autumn wove its tapestry of gold and crimson over Willow Creek. Leaves drifting like confetti from a wedding we'd yet to celebrate. Eli's first as our son marked by pumpkin patches and cider presses that left us sticky sweet and spent. Daniel's proposal hung between us like a melody half-sung. The ring tucked in his pocket waiting for the right verse. But life on the ranch didn't pause for poetry. It demanded dawn patrols and dusk tallies, our love a undercurrent steady beneath the rush. We'd turned Karen's crossing into a community hub, irrigation lines feeding neighbor plots, workshops drawing city folks eager for authentic weekends, learning to brand without burn, to listen to the land's quiet commands. Eli thrived, his questions a fountain. Why sky blue? Daddy Dan? Or moat flowers eat bugs? We'd answer with stories. Daniel's of city vets gone wrong. Mine of Dad's ghost in the wind, building his world brick by patient brick. Romance flickered in the margins. A stolen kiss behind the barn as rain pattered tin roofs. His hand in mine during Eli's bedtime reads. Johnny Cash crooned low from the radio. You're my compass, I'd whisper, tracing his tattoo, and he'd pull me closer, the world narrowing to heartbeat sync. But the valley's peace was a veneer thin as frost, cracking under pressures old and new. Hargrove hadn't vanished. He'd pivoted, buying up fringes from desperate sellers, his eco-village creeping like kudzu. Scouts returned bolder. One even charming Eli with candy at the gate. Pretty pony, kid, until Daniel chased him off with a pitchfork glare. They're testing, he said later, bolting the gate triple. Poking for weakness. Weakness. The word echoed Karen's letter, her fear of love's fragility now our own shadow. Tommy became ally true, dropping tools and time, his laughter mingling with Eli's as they built forts from hay bales. Over beers one evening, fireflies dancing, he confessed, Auntie wrote more letters for after. One for you. He handed a bundle, twine-tied, postmarked her passing. Inside, pages yellowed, her script shaky. Tales of Ray's hidden kindnesses. A youth flirting with doubt in Bible college. Plea unfinished. Love's the hardest fight. Lucas. Don't let mine teach you hate. Tears smudged ink. Forgiveness deepened, humanizing her to myth. Conflict crested with the first frost. When Hargrove's offer arrived, official, typed on linen paper, buyout triple market, for the good of progress. Daniel read it aloud at supper, voice flat, Eli absorbed in mashed potatoes. They smell blood, he said. Eli's school fees, vet expansion we could. No, I cut. Fork stabbing plate. It's a trap. Take it, and we're ghosts on our own land. The argument simmered, flaring when he countered. Practicality, Luke. Love don't feed us. Practicality. Betrayal's cousin, wearing reason's mask. He slept on the couch that night, the house creaking lonely, my mind churning like the creek in Spate. Dawn found me in the barn, currying the bay, when Eli wandered in, blanket trailing. Daddy's mad? He asked, eyes big. Heart wrench. I scooped him up. Just figuring the trail, buddy. Trails twist, but we find straight. Daniel appeared then, rumpled, envelope in hand. Burned it, he said, joining the brush. You're right. Home's worth the fight. We fought smart. Petition drives, op-eds in the Gazette, allying with enviro groups from Missoula. Eli joined, his crayon signs, Save Horsey Home, plastered on posts. The town hall swelled, voices rising, Jenkins thundering on heritage, Mrs. Hargrove baking protest pies. Hargrove testified oily, but when Eli toddled up, unscripted, Mr. Why you want my moat? Laughter broke tension, cameras flashing. The vote held, but narrow, his eyes promising reprisal. Climax brewed darker, a midnight call shattering sleep, Tom's voice, urgent. Fire at the crossing. Arson. Looks like. We raced over. Flames licking the irrigation shed. Smoke acrid as fear. Hoses snaked. Volunteers swarming. Daniel pulling me back as embers flew. Hargrove. I growled. Lungs burning. Proof came dawn. A matchbook from his Denver club. Dropped careless. Arrested at the airport. Confessed under pressure corporate greed. No malice personal, but damage done. In the aftermath, ashes sifted for salvage. Daniel and I sifted us. I almost folded, he admitted, bandaging a blister from the hose. Scared of losing you to this, I pulled him close, soot-streaked. Lose the land, lose us. But we held. Romance rekindled fierce. That night in the guest cabin, spared by wind, our bodies reclaiming what fire stole, slow and sacred. Spring brought rebuilding, Karen's roses transplanted amid new timbers. Eli planted the first, declaring, "For anti-firefighter." Tommy grinned, "The Valley Healing Collective." Daniel's ring found my finger under blossoms. Yes, whispered eternal. Betrayal's embers cooled to wisdom. Love endures, human and fierce, rooting deep. Summer scorched the valley into submission, sun baking the earth to crack tile. But our wedding bloomed defiant, a simple affair under the cottonwoods. Vows exchanged with Eli as ring-bearer, his pillow wobbling under the weight of bands hammered from ranch scrap. Daniel looked at me like I was the horizon, endless, his "I do" a vow etched deeper than any deed. The valley turned out in force, Tom toasting with ginger ale, Jenkins whooping cowboy poetry, even Tommy with a guitar strumming off-key cash. No priest, just us and the river's murmur, rings slipping on sweat-slick fingers, sealing what hooves and shovels had forged. Honeymoon was the ranch itself, Eli boarded with Mrs. Hargrove for a week of pie and stories, leaving Daniel and me to reclaim corners. Picnics by the filled moat, now a lily pond teeming with frogs Eli named. Nights in the hayloft with blankets and bourbon, his laughter my lullaby. Husband, he'd tease, the word new and giddy, tracing my chest like mapping stars. Romance deepened, not fiery but foundational. Conversations meandering from Eli's kindergarten jitters to dreams of a second child. Perhaps. But harmony's a jealous muse, disrupted by whispers from the edges. Hargrove's trial dragged, his confession unraveling threads to counsel cronies. Bribes masked as donations, zoning favors traded like cards. Tom called one evening, voice gravel. "They're gunning for me now, Lucas. Retirement forced. Unless I flip. The valley's underbelly exposed, corruption festering like untreated wounds." Daniel paced as I hung up. "We expose it," he said. "Papers, feds, clean house, expose. Risky, with Eli's face on every sign." Tommy brought proof next day, a ledger from Karen's attic, entries cryptic but damning, payoffs to developers, her signature faded but there. "She played both sides," he said, ashamed. "Hated losing control. Her betrayal echoed in ink, a final twist post-grave. Pocketed it, gut churning. We use it. For the valley. Conflict ignited at the emergency meet. Hall packed tighter than a branding corral. Tom testified first, mustache quivering, laying out the graft. Then me, ledger in hand. "This ends tonight. For Ray, for Karen, for all of us." Murmurs swelled to roar, but Hargrove's lawyer slithered up. Voice silk, slander, Mr. Hale. "And your domestic situation, hardly impartial. Domestic." The slur landed, eyes turning, old prejudices stirring like dust devils. Daniel stood then, Eli on hip, voice thundersteady. "Impartial? This is family, mine, ours. And we're done hiding." Cheers drowned the gavel. But outside, threats scrawled on my truck. "Sinners burn twice." Fear coiled, Eli clinging tighter that night. "Bad men. Daddy," I soothed. "Just loud ones. Kiddo. We got Moat magic." The climax crashed mid-harvest. Combines humming when feds rolled in, warrants waving, arrests rippling. Hargrove in cuffs, councilmen scattering like quail. But in the chaos, a shot cracked, drifter from the fire, out on bail, gunning for revenge at the crossing. Daniel Dove for Eli, me tackling the fool, Tom's backup sirens wailing. Tumble in dirt, fist to jaw, the world a blur of rage and protection. He went down, cuffed, but not before a graze, bullet nicking my arm, blood hot as betrayal's bite. Hospital stitched me quick, Daniel's face ashen at bedside. Lost you once, he whispered, kissing knuckles. Not again. Eli drew get-well cards. Frogs and Daddy's arm in arm. The drifter confessed. Hargrove's payroll. One last spark. Trials piled. Valley purging. Our testimony key. Ledgers and lead hearts. Fall healed slow. Scars fading pink. We adopted a girl next spring. Mia. Sister to Eli's chaos. The house alive with tandem tantrums and lullabies. Romance? In the quiet. His hand on my scar. My hero. Human love. Scarred but shining. Years folded like accordion bellows. Expanding our world while contracting the miles. Eli at 12 now. Lanky with braces glinting as he roped calves with Tommy's ease. Mia trailing with braids flying. Demanding Moat stories at bedtime. The ranch evolved. Vet clinic barnside. Daniel's practice drawing clients from 3 counties. Guest cabins booked solid with families seeking unplug. Our workshops on queer history in the West subtle. Proud. Rewriting narratives one visitor at a time. Willow Creek changed too. Condos quarantined to fringes. Solar farms on fallow plots. The council refreshed with young blood owing us favors. Karen's legacy lingered soft. Annual Rose Festival at the crossing. Proceeds to heart health. Tommy emceeing with jokes that drew laughs where once there'd been lectures. We'd visit her grave occasional. Eli leaving wildflowers. Whispering, thanks for the fight, Auntie. Forgiveness full circle. Humanizing history. Romance matured. Daniel and I silver-threaded now. But touches lingered electric. A brush in the kitchen. Eyes locking over coffee as kids bickered. Anniversaries marked simple. Hike to the old mill. Bourbon by the rapids. Renewing vows in whispers. Still my north, I'd say. And he'd grin. Always charting you. Final conflict whispered in. Not thunder but tide. Eli's college letter. Acceptance to vet school in Pullman. Dreams pulling him west. Like Dad, he said. I's mine but resolve Daniel's. Pride warred with pang. Mia clung. Don't leave me. L. Family meetings stretched nights. Tears and talks. Daniel's hand steady in mine. He's ready, he murmured post-bedtime. We raised him to fly. Betrayal's ghost. Fear of loss. Stirred. But we released. Barbecues becoming send-offs. The valley toasting his future. Climax gentle. Eli's goodbye dawn. Truck packed. Hugs crushing. Love you, Daddies. Moats forever. He drove off. Dust settling slow. Mia waving till invisible. Daniel and I stood arm in arm. Empty nest echoing. But not hollow, filled with memory's warmth. Years later, Eli returned. Clinic partner to Daniel. Mia architecting sustainable builds. Grandkids romping the roses. Betrayal's moat filled long ago. Now a pond of plenty. Love's end? Not tragic, but transcendent, human, enduring, American as the wide sky over our ranch. We dug deep, bridged wide, emerged whole. Home, after all, is the heart's unyielding line.